everyone. This is Detective Void, and I once again have something to tell you. Many SCP objects are valuable for their purposes of scientific study, but some of them are so dangerous that the Foundation is exerting extreme effort in an attempt to annihilate them. They're using many known methods to accomplish this task, including the use of other anomalous entities. But this can't end well. So meet SCP-682, an unbelievably intelligent and dangerous creature. It's a giant reptile whose proportions are difficult to specify as much as I'd like to. And this is hardly a secret. The body of this monster is constantly changing. It can grow as well as shrink in size. An especially clear example of this occurs while the creature feeds. The Foundation claims that this peculiarity of the reptile cannot be explained by modern science. In actuality, there is an explanation, but only very few employees of the Foundation have access to this information. But I'll come back to that point later. The SCP-682 commands great strength, high speed, and extraordinary intelligence. It's capable of consuming any material, including inorganic matter. The creature is able to process these difficult-to-digest materials with the help of the filtration gills located in its nostrils. Most of the time, this reptile is located in a special chamber of 5 by 5 by 5 meters, which already tells us something about its maximum proportions. The walls of its habitat are covered in steel-reinforced plate with a thickness of 25 centimeters or 10 inches. But the most unique feature of these plates is their resistance to acidity, necessary because the chamber fills with hydrochloric acid. The leadership of the Foundation expected to be able to destroy the dangerous reptile through the use of acid, but this proved ineffective. The SCP-682 extracts sustenance directly from acid, which allows it to constantly regenerate. Despite the durable walls of its enclosure, the invulnerable reptile regularly attempts to escape. Of its 17 attempts to date, 6 attempts were successful and resulted in the deaths of Foundation employees. During the first successful attempt, it managed to destroy a nearby village of 298 people. Since then, the Foundation has seen to it that not a living soul inhabits the region within a 50-kilometer radius from the facility. For unclear reasons, the SCP-682 despises all forms of life. He admitted this to another anomalous object, SCP-079 or 079, which is a conscious, artificially intelligent life form. During their meeting, the reptile discovered the AI's complex cognitive operations and had mentioned its desire to kill as many living beings as possible. From the point of view of an intelligent being, such a declaration may seem odd. After all, an intelligent creature must understand the necessity of various elements of its ecosystem, but the SCP-682 considers this unimportant, as it does not rely upon organic matter for sustenance. It's fully capable of surviving even in a post-apocalyptic world. The Foundation laid its best hopes at destroying the reptile on SCP-409. SCP-409 is an infectious crystal which causes the crystallization of any material it comes into contact with the sole exception of granite. During its contact with the crystal, the skin of SCP-682 tore violently. The object was unaccustomed to feeling such intense pain, and he marveled at the nature of the weapon causing him such harm. When 62% of his body had crystallized, it began to burst. Nonetheless, the reptile completely regenerated and managed to kill all the participants of the experiment during its escape attempt. Seeing as the SCP-682 developed an immunity to the crystal, the Foundation ceased use of the SCP-409 in attempts to take the monster's life. Some of the Foundation's employees suggested destroying the reptile with the help of SCP-689, or as it's also known, the Ghost in the Dark. Object SCP-689 is a 30-centimeter tall soapstone statue of a skeleton clutching its knees. While this statue is being observed, it does not move, but as soon as no one is watching, the anomalous statue disappears and the observer dies within 15 to 20 seconds. One of the Foundation's agents suggested that this object's characteristics would allow it to kill SCP-682. The Foundation's leadership approved the proposed experiment. They took the reptile to the statue's chamber and turned off the lights. 5 minutes later, when the lights were turned back on, they discovered a puddle of gray-black liquid with no signs of life. But when a Class D employee entered the room to check the condition of the object, SCP-682 immediately arose from the puddle, killing the employee, and began another escape attempt. The Foundation considered its latest failure and determined that the reptile somehow ascertained the nature of the deadly statue and played dead in order to trick it. Another anomalous object, SCP-182, refused to cooperate with the indomitable reptile. SCP-182 is a man covered in scars who is capable of penetrating into the thoughts of people and animals, causing hallucinations and madness. His reasons for refusal were obviously connected to his fear of the reptile's impressive intellect. According to my data, the SCP-682 is known to the organizations that preceded the SCP Foundation. That the world's first nuclear test was conducted in New Mexico in 1945 in an attempt to destroy the indestructible reptile illustrates this point. Nuclear bombs were used as weapons of war only thereafter. If you take a look at the video recording of the test and stop the clip at 38 seconds, seconds, you can discover a barely visible scale peeping out through the mushroom cloud's wafts of smoke. At 45 seconds, you can see a fragment of the creature's sand-covered tail at 35 meters from the epicenter of the blast. Unfortunately, SCP-682 did not perish in the blast. In fact, the radiation to which he was submitted served only to make him stronger. Because of its ability to consume and digest any material, the creature simply consumed the radiation and repaired its damaged tissues. Because of this fact, and because of the cost and dangers associated with the use of nuclear devices, the decision was made to end attempts to kill the monster by the use of atomic weapons. More than half a century later, the Foundation funded the construction of the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland. Just imagine the scientific research there is to cover for the main role intended for the collider, the liquidation of SCP-682. They plan to destroy the monster by bringing it into contact with a small quantity of antimatter. Turn your attention to this video recording. At 17 seconds, you can see a steel-bodied truck approaching the CERN facilities, being damaged from within, as though someone were trying to break free from its walls. The SCP-682 is the only creature capable of causing such destruction. Just as before, in the case of CERN, the Foundation spent millions in vain. The object took significant damage but managed to regenerate. It's likely that larger amounts of antimatter could have destroyed the creature, but the amount required to kill the monster once and for all would be so great as to cause a global catastrophe or potentially even the destruction of the Earth. We've established that the monster SCP-682 most certainly exists, but there are a host of unanswered questions about this being. Why is this object able to increase its size? What are the mechanisms allowing its digestion and regeneration? What is the cause of its loathing for all other life? And if these questions have answers, then why and how are they being hidden? The first question can be answered by the results of cellular analysis that I discovered by hacking Foundation servers. According to their data, the reptile cells are connected to one another in an unusual way. Its intercellular connections are larger than the cells themselves. These connections are so dense and elastic that they can stretch and compress like a spring. Coming into contact with organic matter stretches these springs, while contact with inorganic matter causes them to compress. As a result of their discovery of these qualities, the Foundation's employees have taken to feeding the reptile stones and acids so that it retains its small dimensions. The reptile cells resemble human stem cells. These form all the tissues and organ systems of unborn human fetuses. The fact the reptile closely resembles an embryo at the cellular level allows it to quickly regenerate damaged body parts. But unlike human cells, the reptile cells are able to use absolutely any material in order to achieve this. It's likely that the cells are somehow able to transform inorganic matter into organic material. Something destroys the atomic bonds inside the matter consumed by the monster, allowing its cells to transform the material it imbibed into oxygen, carbon, or hydrogen. According to the words of the reptile itself, its hatred of all living things is due to its intellectual superiority. In other words, the reptile despises all those it deems intellectually inferior to itself. It's expressed an interest in cooperating with the artificial intelligence SCP-682 in order to overthrow humanity and install a dictatorship of operating systems. This information is a closely guarded secret, accessible only to the Foundation's leading members. They carefully see to it that this knowledge is shared only among the inner circle. A number of artificially intelligent beings exist outside the control of the Foundation. It's feared that if these beings learn of this information, then they will attempt to contact the reptile and cooperate with it. The information about SCP-682 cell structure is also carefully hidden because it practically presents a blueprint for the construction of similar biological weapons capable of regeneration. The Foundation has considered creating such a bioweapon in order to destroy the reptile, but considering all the possible consequences of such a project, the leadership decided long ago not to pursue this option. If a Foundation employee were to gain access to these secret files, he or she would immediately be given a Class B amnesiac or otherwise liquidated. If I were not careful to maintain my anonymity, then such a fate would surely await me as well. As of now, the leadership is placing its hopes on a biological weapon that can be used against the invulnerable reptile. Foundation scientists are working on new viruses that may prove capable of counteracting the monster's ability to regenerate on the cellular level. If this proves unsuccessful, then outer space remains our only hope. The plan for the cosmic destruction of the monster is kept in a separate document, according to which the reptile will be shot into the sun on an automatic shuttle in 2050 if all other efforts to destroy it prove to be in vain. According to this idea, the object ought to burn up, unless of course it's somehow able to use the sun's energy to regenerate. It will not be possible to enact this plan before 2050, as there are currently no spacecraft in existence that are capable of transporting such a great mass out of the Earth's orbit. It must be remarked that the shuttle is intended to carry not only the reptile but its entire holding cell, as well as its acid-resistant casing and the acid itself. This is the only way to incapacitate the creature for the duration of the flight. In addition to the aforementioned measures, a separate Foundation department is engaging in negotiations with the reptilian. The department is attempting to persuade the creature that it has no need to destroy all other living things, things. For the time being, however, the object has proven unwavering in its worldview. In the meantime, all that is left for me to do is observe events as they happen. I sometimes wander into the 50-kilometer exclusion zone, but am prevented from coming any closer by the Foundation's security forces. If SCP-682 were to make another successful escape attempt, it would be able to reach my position in a mere 12 minutes and 22 seconds. In that time, I'd be able to take a few photos and escape in my car. The Foundation security forces are equipped to stop the escapee before it crosses the border of the exclusion zone. So what do you think? Are there any other ways to get rid of this invulnerable reptilian, or would it be better for the Foundation to continue its attempts to normalize relations with the creature in order to use it for the organization's own purposes? Tell us what you think in the comments. This has been Detective Void. Until we meet again in our next video.